So BLG courteous enough, I should say, to come on with us right now and recap what's going on. It's a thunderstorm happening in and around the Delaware Valley as we speak. I'm not sure how long this thing's going to last out here. But Brandon joins us, Harry Mayes, Eytan Shander. And BLG, we appreciate the time, brother. Sorry, we're just getting things worked up on here. What's happening, man?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for fitting me in. Sorry about the situation yesterday.
Listen,
thanks for fitting me in.
You don't ever have to apologize to us. Are you kidding me? You're doing if anything, we should be apologizing to you, to subjecting you to whatever comes from our interview.
You're too modest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to move the day part of our show just so we could have BLG on more often. Because if the Eagles are going to be practicing at noon, going forward, we're out of luck.
You guys are too nice.
Well, what's going on? I mean, is this going to be a consistent
case?
schedule? Because today, we know the rain and how the schedule is going to be working out for this week leading up to the game on Thursday. But is the practice thing kind of set, or is it more fluid?
Usually it starts around 9:15 each day. There's a little bit of fluctuation there depending on how busy or how heavy of a day it is. Sometimes they start a little bit later. But now, today was actually the last practice there was until the preseason game on Thursday night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Tennessee Thursday night at home. All right, Brandon, tell us how severe is this injury to Camus Grugier-Hill, and who stands to benefit as far as, getting reps in practice and maybe being the replacement come the start of the season, because he's probably going to miss the month of September, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, it's not really. It's unfortunate, I would say. It's just Camus was having such a good training camp. The Eagles originally brought him onto the roster after he got cut back in 2016, and he's really kind of progressed since then from being this kind of guy who was on the back of the roster to being a special teams leader and really captain last year. And then it looked like he was going to make another leap this year and kind of be this really important player on the defense. And maybe he can be if he gets healthy. He's dealing with that MCL injury. He seemed pretty optimistic about it. He doesn't think he's going to miss much time. He thinks he can be back relatively early in the season. Jim Schwartz, during his press conference on Sunday night, kind of found the silver lining in the Camus injury and said that he feels like we'll have him back at some point. So the team and Camus himself do seem optimistic he's going to play, and probably sooner than later. But it's kind of a tough situation because, the Eagles already have Nigel Bradham not practicing. He's still recovering from that foot injury he suffered in the playoff game against the Saints last year. And now Camus, who was looking good, isn't out there as well. So they're kind of like down to, like guys like Nate Gary and Zach Brown and LJ Fort, who they signed in free agency. They're trying to figure out which guys they are going to be the guys if Camus can play.
Is there any, and I know that this doesn't happen a lot, but hey, it's not like Howie hasn't made a trade or two at this time of year in the past. Is there any opportunity or options that you see out there as far as bringing somebody in? And we don't need to be bringing in anybody as far as, top level of that position, but anybody that's more than serviceable.
Yeah, linebacker is a position I think you can tell with this team. Like, it's not one they value super highly, so I can't see them going out there and making a big move, especially, too, if Camus isn't going to be hurt for too long. I think the Eagles like what they have. I do think the coaching staff definitely talks up Nate Gary. I feel like we haven't seen that enough from him on the field, so that isn't lining up yet. But the coaching staff really likes him. They really praise his intelligence. Zach Brown is a guy who obviously had experience in the league, did some good things for Washington before ultimately being cut by them earlier this offseason. Then LJ Fort is a guy the Eagles made an effort to get early in free agency. A little bit surprising because not hardly a household name, but they gave him some real money in terms of almost $2 million guaranteed, and they think he can be a contributor on this defense in addition to special teams. So again, they have some guys they like, and then they also gave a big signing bonus to T.J. Edwards, the undrafted rookie free agent out of Wisconsin. Some people thought he might get drafted. So he's around too. They have some guys they're going to take a look at. I think preseason is kind of going to be a really big test for them to kind of figure out, okay, who fits where and how are these guys looking.
BLG, Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation, joining us on the Lighthouse Insurance guest line. And, Brandon, let's go to the safety position. Obviously, Rodney McLeod still coming back from an injury. They bring in Sendejo and then make a move to get Cyprien in here. How does the safety position look to be shaking out, at least for the game on Thursday night?
Yeah, so Rodney McLeod, we've seen some encouraging things from him in the sense that he did get in on some 11-on-11 situations last week. I know, especially even when they were doing tackling to the ground. Now, he didn't do those live periods. He only did the thud, so he isn't. I don't know if he's going to be playing. I don't know if he's 100%. He said that his target date is kind of to be ready in time for that third preseason game, so he might still be a couple weeks away. But the fact that Rodney McLeod looks like he's going to play week 1 is encouraging. You obviously have him alongside Malcolm Jenkins. Then you have Andrew Sendejo, who is definitely going to make this team. The coaching staff likes him. Doug Peterson has talked him up. I think he's going to stick around. So that's you're pretty set if those guys are healthy 1 through 3. It's going to be interesting to see if a guy like Cyprien, who the Eagles just brought in late last week, can kind of crack this roster and maybe be that fourth safety. You still have guys like Trey Sullivan and Blake Countess around, so that's another spot where it's kind of going to come down to steps up in these preseason games.
Could they possibly play Cyprien a little bit at linebacker too?
I think that's possible. Yeah, I mean he is bigger for a safety. He's physical too. And it's one of his first practices with the team. Josh Adams caught a short pass, and Cyprien came up and just knocked the ball right out of his hands. And he also put a pop on Boston Scott, too. So he's not afraid to really stick his nose in there and get physical. And it's kind of interesting, the Eagles signing a guy like Cyprien who has never not started a game in his entire career. He has 70 games played, 70 starts. So it's kind of a matter of trying to see how he fits in.
Brandon, I'm curious, when you look at everything as a whole, and let's start with the offense, and it's not even a two-part question. I'll just focus on the offense for you. Is there anything, and I'm going to ask you this with the backdrop of it being you've covered this team for a bit, not to bite into the preseason sandwich really deep. Is there anything that you've seen so far before the first preseason game that has blown you away that normally you'd be like, it's preseason, they haven't even played a football game yet?
I mean, the Carson Wentz to Deshaun Jackson connection is really encouraging when you're looking at this team's chances.
You sound giddy. I love it.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, look, when you watch this Eagles offense last year, I mean, so many times, like seeing them try to move down the field, I mean, it was like pulling teeth. Like they couldn't do it. They were making offense look so hard. And it's like you would turn on the Chiefs or the Rams or whatever, another good offense in the league, and like they were just moving down the field effortlessly, and it was just frustrating because it's like, how is it so painful to watch the Eagles try to play offense? And with Deshaun here, that like instantly remedies just some of that lack of big play, lack of explosiveness that really plagued the team last season. So the fact that Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson already seem to be on the same page, even though they haven't really played, obviously haven't played any real game action together. To see that developing already, that's pretty encouraging.
All right, Brandon, let's go to the offensive side. I've two things here. I've been reading that Big V has been playing pretty well at right guard in for Brandon Brooks. And what's the status on Brooks? Do you think, as far as maybe for week 3 of the preseason, will we see him? And Nate Sudfeld, I've heard, is stacking some good practices.
Yeah, so with Big V, I haven't seen anything that really super concerns me in training camp as far as that goes. Now, I say that, but I want to see him in the preseason. That'll give us a really better idea of how he's playing that right guard position. Mm-hmm. And he might not need to really, play there too long in the regular season because it's looking like Brandon Brooks is going to have a chance to play early in the season. I mean, if the Eagles were concerned he was going to miss time, they would have put him on the PUP list. They didn't. That was kind of surprising. So the fact that Brandon Brooks seems like he's going to be playing either week 1, and if not then, I would think like week 2 or week 3 at the latest, that's pretty encouraging. And then, going to your Sudfeld question, yeah, for Nate Sudfeld, I mean, he's kind of been inconsistent, I would say, for most of the offseason until about the past week or so, where he's really kind of just turned it on. He's looked more confident. He's looked poised, delivering the ball with accuracy. Timing looks good. So really like what I've seen out of Nate Sudfeld recently, and I'm really interested to see if that's going to carry over to the games as well.
Hey, I'm curious just to get your thoughts on this, and it's popped recently. We kind of expected this to happen, and we're chatting, of course, with Brandon Lee Gowton. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon Gowton. Harry Mayes, Eytan, Shander, 97.3 ESPN. It's now come out that Zeke is telling the Cowboys that he's going to pull a Le'Veon Bell. And any opportunity we get to make fun of the Cowboys, be it in social media or in real world, we take it. This looks to have some legs. Now, again, it's all early in the negotiation period. We've got a month before a real regular season game can happen. But this would be probably the equivalent of like the Mets collapse that we saw a year. I mean, this would be on the level of Nelson haha that we haven't had in years.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are in a lose-lose situation here. I don't think they can win this. I think it's either one of two things. So the first thing is that, and this will probably happen, they'll overpay a running back in today's NFL, where those guys aren't getting paid, and there's a reason those guys aren't getting paid. It's because their value, isn't so great, especially over the long term. You can find other running backs to replace production. And, with a guy like Zeke, who's taken so many carries in his first couple of seasons here, like, that's something you're going to worry about, too, his body breaking down, not to mention all of the off-field stuff, which seems to plague him literally like every single offseason, multiple times through the offseason. So either the Cowboys are going to give him, like, a dumb contract, or the alternative is, obviously, they don't pay him, and he holds out, and then their offense falls to shambles because we know they're not really going to do anything if they don't have a running back like Ezekiel Elliott. We saw it back in 2017 when Zeke missed those games. Dak wasn't good enough. They're a team that wants to build themselves around the run. And if they don't have Zeke, well, they're just kind of screwed.
I love it, man.
Yeah, I love that too. But speaking of running backs, real quick, what have you thought of Miles Sanders thus far?
Miles Sanders, you can see he has something that just the other Eagles running backs don't have in terms of being explosive and elusive and shifty. You can see there's a special talent there. I don't think by any means is he a polished product, and he shouldn't be. He's a rookie. He has things to work on in terms of improving as a pass catcher. He's had some drops. He has to prove in pass protection. He has to work on his ball security. That was an issue at Penn State. So, those kind of things I think will ultimately limit him a little bit in terms of the coaching staff fully trusting him. But at the same time, like, the talent there is undeniable. And I feel like at some point, it could be as early as week one, people are going to be asking, it's going to be the Monday morning press conference with Doug Peterson, and people are going to be asking, I could be asking myself, why isn't Miles Sanders getting the ball more?
BLG, we appreciate it, brother. Last one. Is there anything that we're missing, any storyline, any dramas? Jim Schwartz trying to take over the building? Is Howie Roseman on the hot seat? Is Jeffrey Lurie looking to bring in some sexy coach from college? Anything that we're missing around this time?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, and we already know it, I barely have to say it, is just Carson Wentz's health. He has to get through. Yeah, it's that. I mean, like, if he's not healthy, the season's over. Like, it's really that simple.
He's not playing Thursday night, is he?
We don't know yet, but based on the past, based on how the Eagles have done this in the past, I would imagine he gets some kind of maybe a series or two at most.
All right, real quick. You're Howie Roseman / Doug Peterson, all right? So you look at this from a general manager longevity standpoint to a season-by-season head coach standpoint. You have full autonomy here. How much do you play Carson Wentz for the first 3 weeks of the preseason, knowing that he's not going to play week 4?
To me, if I'm doing it, maybe a series per game at most. I wouldn't want to see much more than that.
A series per game, even in the third game?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Love it. Thanks, brother.
Thanks,
at Brandon Gowton on Twitter. Always appreciate your time, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Brandon Lee Gowton on the Lighthouse Insurance Hotline.